Right. So today we're really diving deep into this whole Theranos thing.
Yeah,
It's a crazy story, right?
it's a wild one.
Silicon Valley, big dreams, a lot of deception, and, that chase for something that seems almost too good to be true.
Right.
So how did this company, like, really capture everyone's attention, right? And then everything just falls apart.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when you think about Theranos, they
Yeah.
weren't just like peddling a product or even just a service.
Yeah.
They were selling this whole vision of the future
Right.
where healthcare was like readily available and affordable
Oh, totally.
for everyone.
Totally.
For everyone.
And at the heart of all that,
Was Elizabeth Holmes.
yeah.
This woman who just embodied that whole Silicon Valley like entrepreneur spirit. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
19 years old, drops out of Stanford.
Yeah.
Already convinced she's going to revolutionize healthcare.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
mean, you have to have some serious confidence to even think that. But that same confidence, that unwavering belief,
Right.
that's what drew people to her.
Exactly.
It was her big promise. This revolutionary idea of blood tests that just needed one single drop of blood.
Just a drop. And not just for like a couple of tests.
Right.
She was claiming that their device, the Edison,
Okay.
could run hundreds of tests
Wow.
from that tiny sample. Faster, cheaper, less invasive diagnostics.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back, it's easy to see how investors got caught up in the hype.
Oh, totally.
Just imagine the potential impact.
Oh, I know.
The money to be made
Yeah.
disrupting a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Oh, talk about Silicon Valley dreams coming alive.
I know, right?
They raised $700 million,
It's incredible.
reached a valuation of $9 billion.
Brilliant, with a B.
With the B, exactly.
Even huge names like former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger,
Wow, yeah.
George Shultz.
Yeah.
They were on the board.
It seemed like everyone wanted a piece of this.
It was like the golden ticket.
It was the future.
Because remember, this was also like peak Silicon Valley disruption era.
Oh, yeah.
Healthcare, with its often slow and expensive processes. It seemed like the perfect target for a shakeup.
Oh, yeah.
And Theranos, with that promise of making healthcare accessible to everyone,
Right.
fit perfectly.
It was the right story at the right time.
Exactly.
And Holmes, she was a huge part of that.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the black turtlenecks, that deep voice, it was very Steve Jobs-esque.
It was also deliberate, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
The way she presented herself, the story she was selling,
Yes.
it was compelling.
Very much so.
But you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Looks can be deceiving.
Right.
And behind that carefully crafted image,
Yeah.
there were cracks.
Yeah.
Cracks in the facade of Theranos.
And cracks that would eventually cause the whole thing to crumble. But before we get to all of that,
Right.
let's talk about the technology.
Okay, yeah.
The Edison machine.
Right.
How was it supposed to work?
So the Edison was this sleek, almost mysterious black box,
Okay.
shrouded in secrecy, very hush-hush.
Okay.
Holmes claimed it could take one single drop of blood
Mm-hmm.
and give you results for hundreds of tests
Wow.
at a fraction of the cost and the time
Right.
of traditional methods.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, the potential impact on healthcare, it was revolutionary,
Right.
pushing the boundaries of what seemed possible. Almost too good to be true, you could say.
Right.
And we know how that usually goes.
Yeah.
So what were some of those, early red flags?
Okay.
Those cracks that maybe things at Theranos weren't quite as they seemed?
Well, even in those early days,
Yeah.
you could hear whispers,
Okay.
concerns.
People working directly with the Edison,
Right.
they started noticing inconsistencies
Okay.
in the test results.
Right.
They voiced these concerns,
Yeah.
but those doubts, they were silenced,
Interesting.
brushed aside.
Wow.
Because, innovation.
Right. Right. A culture of secrecy and fear doesn't really say we're confident in our product.
No, not really.
No.
And this is where John Carreyrou comes in,
Okay.
journalist at the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
And he starts digging around,
Okay.
interviews former employees, goes through data meticulously, and what he uncovered
Yeah.
was pretty troubling.
Yeah. Troubling enough to unravel the entire company. Things are about to get very interesting.
Oh, yeah. So Carreyrou, he keeps digging, right? And as our source lays out, his investigation finds that the Edison machine, this revolutionary blood testing device,
Right.
it wasn't actually capable of doing all the tests Holmes had claimed.
Oh, wow.
It turns out they were doing most of the tests using conventional equipment.
Really?
The very tech Theranos was supposed to replace.
So it wasn't even just, like, exaggerating.
Right.
It was straight up misrepresenting their technology.
Exactly.
That's a whole other... That's wild.
Huge.
They misled investors, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the medical community? Patients.
Right.
Everyone bought into this.
Everyone. And you know, when that expose came out, it was like a bomb went off.
Really?
Carrie Rue's articles in the journal
Yeah.
sent shockwaves. I mean,
Wow.
through Silicon Valley and beyond, really. Yeah.
Investors, they bolted.
Oh, I bet.
They didn't want to be anywhere near it.
Right.
And the government agencies, like the SEC, the FDA,
Oh, of course, yeah.
they started investigating.
Makes sense. What about Holmes?
Yeah.
How did she react to all of this?
It's interesting. At first,
Yeah.
she came out swinging,
Really?
denied everything,
Wow.
publicly discredited Carrie Rue, said his sources were lying,
Wow.
even went on this whole media tour,
No way.
tried to salvage Theranos' reputation,
Wow.
like desperately clinging to that idea
Right.
that the revolution was still happening.
It's like trying to hold on to a story that's already fallen apart.
Exactly.
Do you think she even believed it at that point?
That's a great question.
Or was it just like a delay tactic?
It's fascinating,
Yeah.
right? It is.
To have that level of belief,
Right.
even when all the evidence is stacked against you.
It's wild.
But the truth has a way of coming out, you know?
That's true.
And the investigations by the SEC, the FDA,
Yeah,
they were uncovering a lot more
Right.
than just a few exaggerated claims.
I bet. And those investigations, I'm guessing they didn't exactly paint a pretty picture.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
They found manipulated data, misled investors, and maybe the most troubling thing,
Yeah.
real consequences for real patients.
Oh, wow.
People who took those blood tests
Right.
believed in the promise of this technology.
Yeah.
Their health was actually put at risk.
So we're not even just talking about a faulty product anymore
No.
or some misleading marketing.
Right.
This is about real human impact.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's those consequences that
Yeah.
would eventually take down Elizabeth Holmes
Right.
and her partner, Ramesh Sunny Balwani.
Oh.
He was the president of Theranos during all of this.
So we've got Theranos, right?
Yeah.
It's valued at billions of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
backed by, like, the biggest names.
Huge names.
And the whole thing crumbles
Right.
because the technology just wasn't there.
It wasn't there.
How does that even happen?
It makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do so many smart people
I know.
get caught up in something like this?
Exactly.
Well, it's tempting to see this as like a one-off,
Yeah.
but it's not, you know?
Right.
There were a lot of things that came together
Right.
to make Theranos what it was.
Yeah.
Sure, you had Holmes, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
She was charismatic. She was a great storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
But that story,
Yeah.
it resonated because it was the right story at the right time.
Okay.
Silicon Valley was obsessed.
Yeah.
Still is, maybe with disruption,
Yeah.
finding that next big thing.
Right.
And sometimes
Yeah.
that search,
Yeah.
it can make you overlook some pretty important details.
Right. Like caution and being thorough.
Exactly. You got it. So it wasn't just her. It
It's
was
everything.
Silicon Valley's ambition,
Mhm.
investors eager to buy in,
Oh, yeah.
and a healthcare system that honestly
Yeah.
seemed like it needed some kind of change.
Ripe for it. Yeah. And don't forget about the power of a good story.
Right.
She created this narrative.
Yeah.
Young woman taking on the system, making healthcare accessible.
Yeah.
People connected with that.
They did.
It was like hope, you know?
Yeah, a better future.
Exactly.
It's like almost Shakespearean, right?
Right.
The underdog who takes on the world.
Yeah.
Except in this case, not so much.
Not so much. And that's like the big takeaway here, you know?
Yeah.
Theranos.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even with the best intentions,
Right.
you can't just ignore ethics.
Right. Right.
Progress can't come at the cost of honesty, transparency,
Yeah.
and especially not patient safety.
100%.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here?
That's the question.
What are the lasting effects of all this?
Well, I think Theranos definitely made its mark.
Okay.
There's way more scrutiny now
Yeah.
of healthcare startups.
Makes sense. Investors, regulators, everyone's demanding proof. Right. It's not enough to just have the story anymore.
Right.
You need the data to back it up.
So maybe some good did come out of it.
Maybe so. A little more focus on ethics,
Yeah.
a little more responsibility.
Yeah.
Never a bad thing.
Not at all. And maybe we're also just a little more skeptical now, right?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Especially with tech, with innovation,
Yeah.
you have to ask the tough questions.
Mhm.
See past the hype,
Right, right.
And remember, if it seems too good to be true,
Yeah.
it probably is.
Good advice. Theranos, what a story, right?
Wild ride.
Ambition, deception, and in the end, accountability.
Mm-hmm.
But it all comes down to integrity, right?
Absolutely.
Even when you think no one's watching.
That's when it matters most. That's when it matters most. Well, that's our deep dive into Theranos.
Fascinating case.
It really makes you think, right?
It does. How do we learn from this?
Yeah.
How do we encourage innovation,
Right.
but keep that ethical core?
It's a tough one.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
One worth thinking about.
For sure. All right, that's it for today.
Until next time.